This has massive implications for the Boston Bruins, as this team has been featured well in the Four Nations Cup. We're going to be talking about everybody who made their respective teams, and one player who was majorly snubbed and may have more of an impact than we think initially. Now, this is a lot of big news that we have here, especially leading up to the point of the season where the Bruins need to get better, and it seems like they have been. So we're going to be talking about all of that and the impact that these players will have for their respective teams here in this video. Before we get into it, though, we know it's 75% of you guys watching right now are not subscribed to the channel. If you are looking for a spot to get all of your Boston Bruins news, you're in the right spot. Hit the sub button, join us here on the channel. We're covering everything Boston Bruins related, and this team is getting way, way better. And it's finally fun to watch the Boston Bruins again, so you won't want to miss the news that this team has coming out. But without any further ado, let's get into this. Let's get into the exciting players that we're seeing in the Four Nations Cup. Now, we also have already known that two players, being Charlie McAvoy and being Brad Marchand, have already made their teams. They were announced in the initial rosters. Both of those guys had already had their places, but two more Boston Bruins players have been announced for this team, or for their respective teams, I should say. And we're going to start with the first one here. Being Elias Lindholm. And you'll see that there. Elias Lindholm is going international. It comes from the Boston Bruins. Congratulations on Elias Lindholm being named to Sweden's team for the Four Nations Cup. And this is a pretty interesting one, that Elias Lindholm really hasn't played too great this season. We've kind of known that. We've really been able to, unfortunately, see this, and we're hoping our, off-season edition is going to be much better than what he has been already. But these games in this tournament are going to have some very big effects on these players. That being playing the best players and playing with the best players around the NHL. And I know that this is in February. I know this is still not just yet, but the fact that we're seeing an Elias Lindholm on this team, even at this point he is now in the season, this is going to be able to see and set Elias Lindholm on a very good path for the remainder of the season, and especially on Team Sweden's roster. I don't have it here, but we know that, this guy's like William Nylander, there's Elias Pettersson. So many of these great Swedish forwards are going to be on this team as well, helping out Elias Lindholm and really getting an opportunity to learn from some of these players who have been part of the building of Sweden's team and the growth that this team is going to have going forward. And it's definitely going to help the Bruins with that as well, knowing that Elias Lindholm is going to take away some of these, I guess we can call them secrets, from these other Sweden forwards. Now, he's not the only one, and as I mentioned, there are a few other players that did get snubbed. We're going to be talking about those in a minute, but looking at our Team USA, Jeremy Swayman off to the Four Nations face-off, and once again, another very interesting one. The U.S. has been very good with their goaltending over the past few seasons. We've seen numerous goalies who have been able to make these teams, haven't made these teams, some who might not make these teams, and they really have an infinite amount of possibilities. He's going to be alongside Jake Ottinger and Connor Hellebuck for this. We've seen that, Anthony Stolarz, former Cup winner, Maple Leafs goalie, was also an option for this team, and frankly, he is playing better than Jeremy Swayman this season, and I hate to admit it, I hate to be able to say it knowing that he's on the Leafs, but the fact that Jeremy Swayman has made this team is, once again, another big boost to be able to kind of learn from the best goalie in the NHL, being Connor Hellebuck at the moment, and Jake Ottinger, another goalie who's been very, very good the past few seasons. And there is more of a ceiling for Jeremy Swayman over Anthony Stolarz. Anthony Stolarz has been good over his past few seasons. As much as I hate to admit it, you got to give credit where credit is due, especially on the goaltending side of things. But looking at how we've seen him kind of work over the past few games, work over the past few seasons, Jeremy Swayman definitely has a lot more to bring. And I'm still, and as you know, if you've been here for the past few weeks and since the beginning of the season, I'm still contributing Jeremy Swayman's early struggles to not having a training camp due to the contract negotiations. And I know I may be a bit over-optimistic at this point, but I'm expecting Swayman to turn it around really any game and kind of get the wheels back under and get things going again. And as you can see, a 303 goals against average this season is not the best. We do want to see a slight bit better, but Jeremy Swayman with Team USA, with another team that is going to be very good in front of him, will continue to really show his true value and true worth with this team, and especially with Team USA going forward into the playoffs and in February with the Team USA. But as I mentioned, we do have another player that was, in my opinion, snubbed, but there also may be some more sneaky reasons as to why he was held back from this team. And was he snubbed? Is that the real question? Is he injured? Is that the question? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below when you find out who this is. But looking at one guy who I've mentioned quite a bit recently in Hampus Lindholm, some pretty bad updates from Joe Sacco there the other day, mentioning that he was going to be out for a few more weeks from what we have initially heard. We heard he was week to week, and now it's a few weeks later, and he still is a few weeks away. And as you see from this article, the Bruins star left off Sweden's Four Nations face-off roster, and he did not make the roster, not even considered for, well, certainly considered for, but not really considered to be in the final few selections on the defensive side of things. And I did want to pull up Sweden's defense. Now, obviously, the Swedes are known for their incredible defense, of course, as you see Rasmus Dahlin, Victor Hedman, Rasmus Andersson, Jonas Brodin, Mattias Ekholm, Erik Karlsson, and Gustav Forsling. Now, Hampus Lindholm is among those names. There's no doubt in my mind that Hampus Lindholm is at the skill, at that ability of these names, and the fact that we're seeing him not on this team, whether that is, once again, due to injury, whether it is due to, the lack of, the Bruins' talent, I guess we could say, and the lack of time we've been able to see him on the ice due to this injury, I think is a big part of it. And I think the fact that we're not even seeing maybe that, 8th kind of forward, 7th, 8th forward here is something that is going to contribute to the injury. Now, could he have made it over some of these names? Absolutely. We know that Gustav Forsling, very good, highest plus-minus in the league last year. A lot of that due to coming from Florida. Mattias Ekholm, very solid once again. Jonas Brodin, Rasmus Andersson, some very solid players. And Victor Hedman and Rasmus Dahlin, really no doubt on my mind for those. Erik Karlsson is a very interesting one. Knowing that it still is Erik Karlsson, there's no doubt in my mind that he's still a very good player, but he really hasn't been the same Erik Karlsson for quite a few years now. And the fact that he's made this team over Hampus Lindholm, a player who I would say at this very moment has more of skill, has more of that ability than Erik Karlsson right now, really makes me question why this is. And as I mentioned, the injury I think is a big part of this, and this could even kind of lead it into another big issue that this injury could be worse than we initially thought. And as I mentioned, Joe Sacco said that this was a week-to-week injury. Even after Jim Montgomery had initially said it was a week-to-week injury when it first happened, we're still a few weeks away from seeing him come, and I mentioned that's really a big point of concern, especially the fact that we're going into the new year. We're at the beginning of December, heading into this new year. We need to see him back, I would hope to see before the end of the month. And the way that I'm seeing him, or the way I'm feeling about this, him not being on the Sweden lineup, is making me think that we're probably in a worse spot injury-wise than we initially thought. And if he does end up, this tournament being in February, not being ready for February, the Bruins may have to look for a defenseman via trade, call someone up to replace him. We know that Jordan Oesterle has been playing pretty okay in his replacement. We found that Zadorov-Carlo link there. And really elsewhere, Andrew Peeke, Mason Lowry, really anybody you want to say, Parker Wotherspoon down there, could work out. But we know how good Hampus Lindholm has been. We know how big of a hole he has left, and that's been pretty evident over the past, few weeks since we've lost him. We're getting better on that front now that we're getting a bit more chemistry on the defensive side of things once again, but this could still really be a big loss and a detrimental loss heading into the later half of this season. So this may reveal a bit more of an issue than we wanted to see, but the fact that we're, still lacking him, but we're seeing a lot more Bruins players on these Four Nations rosters is something that we have to look forward to, and something that's going to really translate to their game with the Bruins. So let me know what you think about the rosters, and obviously, we still have quite a bit of time for this tournament, so, obviously, it wouldn't be no practice for Hampus Lindholm, really, if we did see him come into this roster late or whatnot, but still, anything can change. There's going to be injuries, and we'll see if he ends up making this team at a later date. But that's all I got in this video. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. But I'm signing out. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.